Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, give all praises to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. I pray that the Most High blesses this lesson this afternoon, gives us more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past, in order to understand the events that are currently happening on the earth, so that we get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. Before I begin this lesson this evening, I wanted to make sure I made an announcement that Sister Cassandra has already finished up Big Judah Notebook number 3, and that it is on the website. And if you guys want to go and get it, you may go ahead and jump on the website, bigjudah.com, and the Notebook number 3 is already set up. Sister Cassandra has been working tirelessly to get this information out to the nation. Brothers Teddy and Rick, thank you, brothers, for getting that up on a timely manner so that it's already available. If you guys want to go ahead and get on there and download it, print it out, however you guys want to work with it. But like I said, the Most High, I'm sure, we're having like a little bit of a pause in some of the things that are going on right now. Man, maybe that's just because the Most High is trying to get this information out to the nation before, more of the plagues begin to drop. We know they're already dropping, but some are being more publicized than others. But we know that the Most High is at work. He's on many different fronts. He's working on the other nations. He's working on getting the information out to the people, of our nation or other nations as well, however the Most High wants to do it. He's probably put the spirit on Sister Cassandra to work so tirelessly to get this information done and out as quickly as possible. Now that's over 700 pages of information. Over 700 pages. That's absolutely amazing. And she still has more work that she wants to do for the people. So thank you again, Sister Cassandra, brothers Rick and Teddy, for getting it up. Sister Cassandra is working tirelessly for the nation to get this information out. And thank you so much. Now, let's pivot to what we're going to talk about this evening. Keep hearing talk from all these other camps and Israelites talking about Hebrews and Mormons. Talking about Hebrew Israelite Mormons and things like that. We're going to be getting into what these people are. These other Hebrew Israelite groups. They are Catholic Hebrew Israelites. And I'm going to show you exactly how they support the Catholic religion, even after our Father has dealt a death blow to this religion. These people are still following Catholic doctrine. Like I said before, many years ago when I first started doing videos, and I started talking about other books, I started talking about Enoch and Jubilees and things like that. One thing that I saw, it was crazy because I did a video about, the different books, and all of a sudden, every single camp, every single group started talking about, well, I shouldn't say every single, the vast majority, all of them, you are ending their mission, their little lessons with, well, we don't believe in the book of Enoch, or we don't believe in this. It's like these guys go after each other over every little thing. But the one thing that they're all confederate on is that they follow that Catholic doctrine, the Catholic doctrine of 80 or 66 books. That is one thing that all these groups have in common. They're not going to get into the other books. They're going to stick with the 80 books, which is a Catholic doctrine. We're going to get into some pretty deep information here, because they're always talking about firsthand accounts and primary sources and stuff like that. I'm going to give them some primary sources this evening over historical, events and things that have happened that have been hidden. And who are they hidden by? Their daddy, the Catholic Church. See, we've moved into a new era now. And just like many of the gentiles who seem to think that we still need to prove things to them, that we need to prove everything, we need to disprove their stance and prove our stance. See, that's what's happened to the Gentiles. The Gentiles still think we're in that kind of a time period. And so do many of these Hebrew Israelite camps. They seem to think that we need to actually go to them and prove to them that the Book of More is actually a legit book. Those days are done. We don't have to prove absolutely anything to you other groups. If you don't want to believe in the second stick, be my guest. Don't believe it. But I'm going to expose some things about you and some things that you guys do that actually proves that you're part of the Catholic Church. And what you're going to try to do is what you mostly do. Most of the time, what you guys do is you just try to act like you ignore it, like you're somehow above us, above our people over here. That you somehow seem to think that we need to go to you, but you don't have to prove absolutely anything to anyone else. Not one of you has made a video to prove 80 books only. Not one of you has made a book or has done anything, has come up with scripture, has come up with any video, anything to prove that we can only read 80 books, or that the Most High only approved 80 books. Not one. But they'll sit there and try to talk about, the Book of More, any other books, the Book of Enoch, this, and that, but they won't prove anything that they stand upon. The one thing that they stand on is the 80 books. And not one of them is willing to stand up and make a video and prove that the Most High approved 80 books. You can't go, to a couple little scriptures that never says anything about the 80 books and seem to think that that proves anything. That doesn't prove absolutely anything. And the only people that are now listening to you are your little cronies, your little buddies, who just go over there and just cheerlead on your channels and just say, "Hey, Ak, great video, Ak. Oh, that's a great video. Hey, those are great points, Ak. Oh, you killed him. Oh, he's a bug out." You guys sound, that's so elementary school. And if you want to stay in elementary school, maybe you don't have a choice but to stay there. But that's fine. But the fact that you keep talking about Hebrew Mormons like we're somehow following the Mormon religion just shows that you have absolutely no understanding what it is that you're talking about. But before we even talk about what I'm talking about, why don't you prove the 80 books? And here we go. See, this is a new year. We're moving into a new era. The Most High has already knocked out the box your daddy, the ones that you guys have held up, and the ones that you follow. So right now we're in 2020, the year of clarity, the year of abundance, the year of focus, the year of determination. This is a year of abundance. The abundance is getting more knowledge, not being stuck with the little bit of knowledge that you seem to have and that you seem to think that you have over everyone else. You've been able to live like that, live deliciously, doing your thing and acting like, your shit doesn't stink and that everything that you say is the absolute truth and everyone else that doesn't agree with you is totally wrong. See, about 3 weeks ago, I don't know if you guys got the memo yet. I think some of the Gentiles maybe haven't got the memo either. But the Most High, when he pretty much put the Pope into hiding, when he pretty much closed all these churches, he pretty much closed all these higher learning institutions that push all of the 80 book doctrine, the canonization doctrine. Most High closed all of that up. Did he not? Yes, he did. So once the Most High closed down all of those different kinds of those different institutions, he pretty much proved that they have no power and that the Most High does not deal with them. Now, the main one, as you know, now Italy is being closed down. All the churches are closed down. The priests are closed down. All the people, the billion plus people who actually follow these Christian and Catholic doctrines are all closed down. You don't hear them. You don't hear Gentiles now say anything about canonization, 80 books only, because they're not saying much of anything anymore. But why? Because the Most High has shut them down. The Father that I follow has shut them down. So all the things that they've set up, all their doctrines mean nothing. So if the people who were the Catholics or Christians or the Constantine Christians that we've been talking about all these years are the ones who established 80 books. And the Most High just shut them down with this CV virus, and he's punishing them right now. That would then prove that the Most High was not with them. So therefore, that would also prove that he's not with the canonization of 80 books only, because he shut down their entire organization. See, it's either this Catholic organization here and their history is the ones that set up the 80 books, or it's the Most High. Since you've never proven that the Most High has approved 80 books only, then that there shows you that that was a man-made doctrine. And the Most High he's already destroyed that man-made doctrine by closing down all of their churches. So now, if you're still pushing 80 books only, and you're talking about, Hebrew Israelite Mormons, well, now I'm going to talk about you, because you guys are just Hebrew Israelite Catholics who now has had your daddy and his church shut down. So now, how do you, what do you use now to prove that 80 books is all we can read? Because, the Most High didn't say that. So the only people that said that were Catholics. And now the Catholic Church has been destroyed, has been put down, has been put to sleep. So now the only people that are out here still pushing 80 books are you camp brethren who are still pushing 80 books only. No one else is. Even Gentiles aren't even saying that no more. And I'm actually going to put a link in a video for a video from God Rules. It was actually talking about that, and talking about actually the Holy Spirit actually being a female. And he's also giving a whole lot of historical information as to why, the other groups, well, the Christian or Catholic groups, were the ones that hid all these other books with no authority whatsoever. There you go. There's your daddy right there. You, Catholic Hebrew Israelites, sick, gone for weeks. Most High took him down, shut down the churches. He's the one, and his organization was the one that approved 80 books, not the Most High. So you're going to go ahead and run back to your couple little verses that talk about not mating with her, which damn well does not mean anything about the 80 books. Because during the time of Isaiah, there weren't 80 books. In Revelation, there weren't 80 books. So anytime you sit here and try to make up whatever little doctrine or in your mind, you say, go right ahead and do that. And go ahead and make another video, and then have your same, all pretty much only your people in your group or your organization are the only ones that are going there, and that are actually pretty much, yeah, Hawk, that's a great video, Hawk. That's great scriptures right there, Hawk. Yeah, those are the same ones we've heard every single week, Hawk, but we're still going to keep on saying those are great. We're still going to keep cheerleading the same thing over and over again. Because we don't like to think. We don't like to research. We just like you to tell us everything. So like I said, that's your daddy right there. He's the one that came up with 80 books. People who held that position as the Pope, those are the ones who came up with 80 books, not my father. My father has given me life and understanding more abundantly. He's given me other information. He's given me the Holy Spirit to guide me in other directions. And not just me, but also my brethren who are here and learning and studying with me as well. That's the group right there. When you keep saying, I need to get firsthand accounts. I need to see the firsthand account of this or firsthand account of that. Well, considering the fact that I'm going to show you how these people work. With when they got over here, they got the information from over here and then took it back over there to, Europe, to the three parts, and then act like it was there. It was theirs originally. You should be smart enough to realize that by now. That they didn't have anything over there. They had very little understanding over there. And the vast majority of the information that they used for the time of the Renaissance, it shouldn't be that hard to figure out, but most of the time after the Renaissance, when the Renaissance time really started getting going, was when they got here and jacked the information from this world over here. They didn't have a bunch of this information, and we know that. Why do we know that? How do we know that? Because we actually study over here. That's how we know that. So when you keep talking about, Mormon Hebrew Israelites, we're going to talk about the Catholic Hebrew Israelites. And how that's exactly what you are. Because you're not following what the Most High said. Because the Most High never approved 80 books. You're proving what your daddy said, which is over here, Esau Edom. He's the one that approved 80 books. And you're the one that is still barking and yelling about the 80 books only when he's not even doing it now. He's not saying much of anything. He's too busy being sickened by the Most High or being put into a quarantine by the Most High. And the Most High is trying to release his people. And we got Catholic Hebrews over here trying to keep them in bondage, to the Catholic organization and the Catholic way of thinking. Hebrews are way too smart, way too intelligent, and definitely following the Most High to ever have been, in any kind of position to limit themselves to only a certain amount of books that their enemies have approved to them. So here you go. These brothers right here, these dudes right here, they were following Catholic doctrine. They're following the 66 books, the 80 books, or no, they were only 66 books, if that. I said, so that's who the Gentiles had raised up at the end here until the Most High shut them down too. You don't hear much from Joel Osteen, and you damn sure ain't hearing much from Kanye West anymore. Anyone in the Most High, did not want to be teaching right now, he shut down. And he's now allowing his people to actually be exposed to the truth. But we still got Catholic Hebrews saying 80 books only, just like the Pope was saying, just like all of these people over here in these religions have been saying. So just because we want to read more because the Most High leads us to read more, doesn't mean we're going the wrong path. But we're following what the Most High has told us about knowledge increasing. These Catholic Hebrews are only following what the Catholic Church is already approved a long time ago, even though now there's no such thing as a Catholic Church. Because why? Because the Most High has taken them down. Have you ever said, that's white people shit, in front of white people? They'd be like, that's it right now. I'm telling you right now, 80 books only, that's white people shit. And if it's not white people shit, then why don't you prove it to us? Make a video and show us how it's not white people shit. Because they're the ones who are the ones who have said 80 books only. Constantine Christians are going to say that. So now when you're sitting there pushing all that, and they seem to think that we need to go to you to get approval, that's what's funny. That's exactly what Esau's done, is it not? If there's anything that we had to go against his doctrine, we would have to go to them, and they would actually hold themselves up into like a higher status, and make it seem like we had to prove our case to them beyond a reasonable doubt. But they never have to do that. They never have to come and prove anything. See, they just make decrees. That's what they've been doing this entire time. Ever since the Constantine Christians, they decreed this, and then that was it. They said it. This is the way it is, and that's it. As always. But now, what has the Most High just done to them? He's just shut them up, shut them down. Is that not correct? Because their time of just decreeing things are done. Just like the Hebrew, Catholics. They seem to think they can just decree 80 books and don't have to prove it. You see what I'm saying? That's exactly what they're acting, just like Edomites. When they said, well, I said it, so therefore that's what it is. I'm like, dude, you're not my daddy. You don't tell me anything. You don't tell me that that's the way it is just because you said it. But see, but they're used to decreeing things just like Esau's been doing. But now we're letting them know that those times of just decreeing things to us, it's a wrap. That stuff is done. And the Most High did it to your daddy first. He shut your daddy down first by actually shutting down their churches and shutting down all these other institutions that believe in that 80 book or 66 book garbage. And the only ones out here still barking all that, saying all that stuff are the Catholic Hebrew Israelites. They're the ones who destroyed our people. got us, our people running around here with Virgin Marys, acting as if that's the mother of God and everything else. That's what these Catholics have done, And like I said, it just destroyed the entire world. But how do they destroy it? 80 books only. Don't read anything. I will read it for you. I'll break it down for you. Don't question me. And that's exactly how Hebrew Israelites run the show too. See, we're out here working to break the curse. See, this curse right here, this guy's getting ready to bust up these statues. Those statues represent 80 books only. Don't question me. I get to decree it, and you just listen to what I have to say. So it is not just the Roman Catholic Church; it's also the whore. So do we also have some whores here that are following the ways of the Catholics? See, if you're talking about 80 books only, I said that right there is Catholicism. They decreed it, and we demanded we follow it, and we still got people today pushing those decrees right now. And if you're not a Catholic, then prove that that the Most High approved 80 books. It's really simple. If you could have done it, you already would have, but you can't. So all you do is just keep on decreeing things, and seem to think that you're in some kind of a lofty position that we need to go to you in order to get approval to read other books. When the person that gave you that decree and gave you that power was the Catholic Church, which the Catholic Church is now shut down. White supremacists use the Bible to justify their racism. But here's the thing. There are no white people in the Bible. Bingo. Exactly. So if there were no white people in the Bible, then what makes you seem to think that white people get to decree what we get to read? Oh, because that's what they were given as their blessing, right? They were given, that was their blessing. They could say things and then that people would have to listen to it. But hey, we're trying to break that decree. We're trying to get away from that. But we got a whole lot of Hebrew Catholics trying to continue with that decree. I guess they must seem to like having Esau over them. They must seem to like having Esau decree what we can read and what we can't read. And so they're going to fight tooth and nail to keep that going. But over here, we're not doing that. If y'all want to do that over there on your guys' group, hey, be my guest. But there's going to definitely be a response. If you guys are going to keep on talking about Hebrew Mormons, we're going to have to talk about you Hebrew Catholics. And you be Hebrew Catholics been here a whole lot longer than we have. Like I said, we got a whole lot of Stevens around here. I said they like to talk a big game, like to talk tough and everything else, but they ain't going to break away from Daddy, though. If Daddy said 80 books, they still reading 80 books. They ain't going to read nothing else, right? And their job is make sure that you don't read nothing as well. So if you're going to be a Steven, I said, knock yourself out. I said, but why don't you go ahead and prove that you're not a Steven and that the Most High approved those 80 books for me. Can you help me out with that? Say, just make a little video. It shouldn't take very long. I'm sure it's really easy to prove that the Most High said 80 books. Because if he didn't want us to read anything else, I'm sure that he would have put that somewhere. And this is how they look. And a lot of these people be looking. Negroes always asking Caucasians permission. And that's exactly what it's like right now. Got a whole lot of these, so-called tough guys and these camps and these groups and whatever else who always, I can't read any other books, because the Caucasians didn't say I could read any other books. They said pretty much 80 books only. That's all I'm going to read. And in fact, I'm going to make sure that you guys don't read anything either, because the Caucasians didn't give me any permission to read anything else. So they'll be the ones sitting here talking about Esau and banging on Esau and this and that. I said, but are they going to actually break away from reading only 80 books? See, that's the one thing that they're not allowed to do. They can talk a good game. They can say all these different things, but they're not allowed to read any other books. Now we're going to read a little bit of this, because what people don't understand is this. The Renaissance and the Most High and these Edomites and these Gentiles actually getting knowledge and understanding, they got it from over here. They went and got the information from over here, took it back over there to Europe, and then acted like they came up with the stuff. Now, see, we got these Catholic Hebrew Israelites that are pretty much pushing that whole narrative that all of the information came from over there in the so-called Middle East, came from over in that way, and that there was nothing over here. But we're going to show you real quick. I'm going to read a little bit from here that, in astronomy, they had everything over here. I said, so just like to sit there and act like they didn't have any information over here, or they didn't come and steal it from over here and take it over there, is absolutely ridiculous. Let's read a little bit here from The Fingerprints of the Gods, page 167. When Harleston's investigations had shown what was that a complex mathematical relationship appeared to exist among the principal structures lined up along the Street of the Dead, as in Teotihuacan, and indeed beyond it, this relationship suggests something extraordinary, namely that Teotihuacan might originally have been designed as a precise scale model of the solar system. So they had Teotihuacan over here, then they had all this information that showed that it was a precise scale model of the solar system. At any rate, if the center line of the Temple of Quetzalcoatl were taken as denoting the position of the sun, markers laid out northwards from it along the axis of the Street of the Dead seem to indicate the correct orbital distances of the inner planets, the asteroid belt, Jupiter, Saturn, represented by the so-called Sun Pyramid, Uranus, by the Moon Pyramid, and Neptune and Pluto by as yet an unexcavated mounds some kilometers farther north. So they already had all this information over here, which shows you that they had writings over here, that they had mathematical sequences. They had all this information over here. But if you're stuck thinking that everything came from over there in the so-called Middle East, then you're just pretty much going to ignore all the information that was here. Do you really think that they came here and got all this information, they had access to all this information, and they just burned it all? No. They went over there and tried to duplicate it. Let's continue. Let's see here. If these correlations were more than coincidental, then at the very least, they indicated the presence at Teotihuacan of an advanced observational astronomy, one not surpassed by modern science until a relative late date. Okay, so the people over in Europe, over in the three parts, were way behind what was over here. Okay, so if they were so far behind, then why do you seem to think that writing originated over there in the so-called old world as opposed to over here? Why do you think that, there would be no writings of the 10 tribes over here? Hebrew Israelites, you Catholic Hebrew Israelites do believe that the 10 tribes are over here. So then where's their writings? You're trying to say they don't have any writings. And if they did have writings, your daddy was the one that hid them when he got here. I'm going to show you an example of that very soon. The people that you're sitting here still talking about 80 books that he approved for you, so they're the ones that hid all this information. Okay, let's see here. It says one not surpassed by modern science such a relatively late date. Here we go. Uranus remained unknown to our astronomers until 1787. So the people that you guys are representing, the people over there in Europe, with your 80 books only, so they're the ones they didn't even know about Uranus until 1787, Neptune until 1846, and Pluto until 1930. So there's an example of how much more advanced the people are or were over here in the so-called New World. You don't think they wrote down any of this stuff? Of course they did. And it took them that long for them to figure it out. 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, for them to find stuff that the Hebrews had already known over here for thousands of years and built it into their structures. So again, You think the original writers of all this information came from somehow over there in the so-called Middle East, or the so-called Roman Catholic Church that gave you 80 books? You're going to realize that they were way behind what was over here in the Americas. So they're in no position to be dictating how many books we read. How are we going to let a group of people that is across the ocean, that had no idea of any of this stuff, be the ones to dictate what we read, when they were so much farther behind than the people here? Only way you can do that is if you just pretty much ignore everything over here, which is exactly what our Catholic Hebrew Israelites are doing. They're just ignoring all the information that's here and just going by what they've been told by the Catholic Church. Again, that Catholic Church that was put down by our daddy, by our father. Right here. Got this from my brother. He sent me this a little while ago. Less than 300 pyramids in Africa. 10,000 plus in America. But you think America's civilization is new. Again, you Catholic Hebrews, all you guys can do is ignore this information. That's all you're going to do. You're not going to try to explain it. You're not going to try to talk about it. You're just going to try to say, well, until I get some original documentation. Well, the original documentation was over here. Who do you think hid it? If there were over 10,000 plus pyramids in America, you don't think they wrote anything down over here? That's where the vast majority of the writings are going to be, over here. 10 tribes over here. So they're the ones that came over here and hid it. And now the people, now you're like a watchdog. The people that hid it use you so they don't question them about what they did with the books. They're the ones that came over here, grabbed our records, hid them, or used them to make it seem like they were the smart ones. I'm going to show you another example of that real soon. Y'all also y'all love firsthand. You guys always talk about primary sources. I know a lot of these groups don't believe in giants. They don't believe that there were any such thing as giants. Well, I'm going to show you a primary source that actually shows you from the conquistadors that were here how they were given the bones of the giants. And then they just took those bones right back over the ocean, back over to Seville, Seville, Spain, and then never to be seen again. Kind of like a Smithsonian Institute, but in the 1500s. The True History of the Conquest of Mexico by Captain Bernal Diaz del Castillo. Let's see here. In the middle, where it says, they said that their ancestors had told them that in former times the country was inhabited by men and women of great stature and wicked manners, whom their ancestors had at length extirpated, and in order that we might judge of the bulk of these people, they brought us a bone which had belonged to one of them, so large that when placed upright, it was as high as a middle-sized man. It was the bone. Hold on. It says it was the bone between the knee and the hip. I stood by it, and it was of my height, though I am as tall as the generality of men. They brought also pieces of other bones of great size, but much consumed by time. But the one I have mentioned was entire. We were astonished at these remains, and thought that they certainly demonstrated the former existence of giants. This bone we sent to Castile for His Majesty's inspection. Okay, so here is your primary source, page 163. Go buy the book. Says you Catholic Hebrews, and go examine it for yourself. Because many of you say, oh, there was no such thing as giants. We are the giants, or whatever you guys come up with. But there was actually a primary source that saw the bones, and they sent it back to Castile, Spain, for the king to inspect, and then never seen again. Just like they did with the Smithsonian. So you're going to give me some breakdown, your great breakdown of Genesis about the giants and how those people weren't really men, and this and that, even though the scriptures say they were. But you're just going to discount this like you always do, because you discount everything that doesn't go with what your daddy told you can talk about. So you can keep talking about us being Mormon Israelites. Well, I'm going to just talk about you guys because Daddy said that there was no such thing as giants. That's what the Edomites have been pushing this whole time. So you just push their same things, even though they had accounts. They have the bones. They got the bones right here. You got them right here from a primary source. Who was there? As soon as they stepped off the boat, when they were there for a little while, these natives showed them the bones, gave them the bones, and they sent them to Spain. But you're going to sit here and believe a group of people who told you 80 books only, who've been lying to you about absolutely everything. Like I said, if that's what you want to be, knock yourselves out, these Catholic Hebrews, all right? But here's your primary source that you guys always love to talk about. Here's one right here. These giants were here in these lands. Just like I talked about in the scriptures. Just like I talked about in the books of Enoch. That they were so trying to not, give any justification to. Just like this map right here of all the giant bodies found in North America. They were finding them down in Mexico too. Now, I'm going to read here about how the people who you've given, authority to break down your scriptures, all they did was come over here, get the information, take it back, and then repackage it, and then give it back to you. They gave you the remix. And then our people don't question anything, and that's what's going on right now. This is from the Archaeology and the Book of Mormon, Milton R. Hunter. Read the middle. The Maya priest astrologers plotted the courses of the planets, including dim and elusive Mercury. So accurate were the measurements of these ancient Maya astronomers that they differ only slightly in degrees and minutes from those of our present-day astronomers, aided by powerful telescopes and advanced mathematical formulas. So they must have wrote all this stuff down, didn't they? So if they had stuff written down, then why can't we see all the other stuff that was written down? So they just said, oh, they burned everything. You really think they burned everything? You got you got from the top, from Canada all the way down to South America. You think they burned every single thing? Come on now. It says, they were fully aware of the 365 and a quarter day year and developed a calendar of an 18-month year and 20 days each, plus a 5-day week. Let's see here. At the end of the year, at the end of each year, to take care of the remaining 1/4 day, they made corrections for leap year at convenient intervals. This they computed and put into daily practice. Long before the Julian calendar was adopted in Rome, and in consequence, centuries before Pope Gregory the XIII called for a conference in 1582 when our present day calendar was created. So what you're trying to say, like they got over here, got this information, and then, a little while later, 100 years later or so, or a little bit less, they just, bam, came up with their own calendar. You think they came up with that calendar on their own? Of course not. They got their information from the natives here, from the Hebrews here, and they just took it over there and remixed it, and then, bam, there you go. Now, that 1611 came out even after this. So you don't think they came over here, got some more information from over here, then later on redid their Bible? We do know that King James was over here too. King James came over here to the Americas as well. That's documented in some other books that we have. But King Drop did a video on that a long time ago. So King James comes over here, and then 1611, bam, he remixed a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and now he approved whichever 80 books, and there you go. Like I said, all of their stuff, all their Renaissance stuff came when they got over here. Let's read a little bit more here. The old mind astronomers didn't stop with their observations of the movements of the sun, the moon, and the 5 known planets, but compiled tables of lunar eclipses and predicted these with astounding accuracy. So, what did it say right there? But compiled tables, which means what? They had writings. They were writing things down. They were documenting things. And I have other books, I can get into that as well, about the different kinds of documents that they found when they got here, if that's necessary. But, Hebrew, Catholics don't want proof. They just want to continue with what Esau gave them. They don't want to have to think for anything. There are many records here. And I have a book that goes into those records as well. So if I need to do that, I'll definitely do that as well. So like I said, they're documenting everything over here. So they're just going to burn all this information? No, they're just going to tell you they burnt it so they can keep it for themselves, so that they can act like they were the ones that came up with it. Is it really that hard to believe? What do they do with a bunch of our inventions? They stole the inventions, act like they came up with it themselves, and took full credit for it, and took all the money for it too. They did exactly the same thing way before that, because that's in their spirit. That's how they are. But we got Catholic Hebrews who want to sit there and elevate these people and acting like somehow they have the authority to dictate which books we can and can't read, even all the way up to today. Even after, the Most High has put their religions down, they're still going to stick with that. See, the Most High is trying to release our people to start to read and research and learn for themselves, and let the Holy Spirit be the one that guides them. But they're too stuck, and they don't want to let you guys go, and they want you guys to seem to think that you still need them in order to be able to read and understand the scriptures, the only scriptures that Esau has approved. Okay? In his most recent book, The Rise and Fall of Maya Civilization, Dr. J. Eric S. Thompson discussed at considerable length the astronomical knowledge attained by the Mayas. He declared that it was a great intellectual achievement for the Maya priest astronomers to construct a table. Okay, so here it is, this table again. So they're writing things, right? For predicting when solar eclipses would be visible. He, like most writers, gives the Mayas full credit for the complete development of all the astronomical knowledge. However, it may be possible that they inherited many ideas from their ancestors, the ancient Israelites. So they write this stuff, but our people are the ones who just pretty much, well, it's not in the Bible, so I'm not going to listen to it. It's not in the 80 books that they approve for me, that the Edomites approve for me, so I'm not gonna look at this. This guy right here is saying that they got it from their Hebrew Israelite ancestors. I would think that would be something that would be kind of interesting to do some research on. But no, Catholic Hebrews don't do much research. They just like to pretty much just be told what they need to know, and then nothing else. The ancient Hebrew prophets attained a profound knowledge of the stars and planets by direct revelation from the Most High. For example, the Most High appeared to Abraham and gave him power to look into space as if he were using a modern telescope. But see, if it's not written in 80 books, they don't want to hear about that. You see, the only people that are trying to hide all this information are the ones who stole it. The ones who stole it were the Edomites and the Gentiles. So therefore, they don't want you to realize that this stuff you already knew. You already had knowledge, understanding of it. So they set up an entire religion that keeps it so that you don't do any research and you don't realize that your people were already over here and had all this knowledge and information. They tried to clean up the crime scene with this Catholic religion. So you wouldn't do any research, you wouldn't look over any other books, and you would just pretty much just listen to what they say. That's exactly what the Catholic Church has done. Was what they did with the priests. See, right? You had to go to the priest in order to talk to the Most High. But see, now the Pope said, oh, you don't have to do that anymore. You can go directly to the Most High. See that? And same thing with these Catholic Hebrews. No. Don't do any research. Just if you have any questions, ask me, and I got all the breakdowns for you. And if it's something that you don't know or you're not sure, just listen to my breakdown. And then if you don't agree with my breakdown, you're going off. You're getting it all wrong. That's what Catholic Hebrews do, and that's what Catholic priests used to do. And if it's not true, then show me where the Most High said 80 books only. And that's it right here. If you're not going to do the research, if you're not going to read any other books, this is what you can do. Because we have nothing else to talk about. How are you going to sit here and talk about books you don't read, you haven't read, you just go and get one little part, and then you expect us to have to break everything down for you? Like I said, those days are done. You can believe whatever the hell you want at this point. I said this is the fullness of the gospel. The two sticks being brought together. If you don't want to believe it, I said before you even talk about the Book of Mormon, prove the 80 books. I said you haven't proven anything yet. You can't talk about the Book of Mormon when you haven't even proven that we can only read 80 books. I said these guys got over here and they copied everything from the natives, and then they made up a religion that kept you from researching anything, and then kept you looking at everything over there on the everything came from over there. That's what that Catholic religion was really set up to do. At this point, it was kept, and that's what it's done. It's kept everybody looking over there in the three parts. It has everybody looking in the Middle East today. It's still got people looking over in Europe, and it's got no one looking over here in the Americas. See, over here in the Americas is where they got all their information from. The Renaissance began after they came over here and started stealing all of the resources from here, getting the information from here. Their rebirth was at our expense. Their rebirth or Renaissance era was at the expense of the Northern Kingdom. And then the Southern Kingdom went into slavery as well. And we still got people, I said, still talking about, how we're about to get destroyed, how we're about to go through tribulation. And they don't look at all the tribulation. They don't ever talk about the tribulation of the Northern Kingdom when the Spaniards got here. They don't hear anything about that. Why is that? Oh, because the Catholic Church didn't want to talk about that. And of course they wouldn't want to talk about that, because that actually makes them look bad. It actually shows how they were used as the tool of the Most High to destroy our people. So they don't want that. So what they do is they make up a religion that makes you look at everything over there in the three parts and act like nothing was over here. And what did they tell us when we were in school? Oh yeah, the Native Americans, they were just running around here butt naked, didn't know anything, this, and that, and they didn't have anything. They were just living in teepees, and okay, right? But we've already done research to show that that's not true. Why would they say that? Oh, because they were going to jack all of our information, take it back over there to their lands, and act like their Renaissance was something that they've all come up with when it wasn't, when it was all stuff that they stole from our people over here. And they've been trying to push that lie the entire time, and the religions have done a great job with that. And not only the religions, a lot of these Hebrew Catholics are doing exactly the same thing. They don't look at the Americas, won't look at any of their writings, won't look at any of their accomplishments here, but will only push that somehow the Gentiles were the ones that were allowed to give us, approve 80 books. Well, all your colleges, because they always love to talk about, there were all these scholars that, have done all this research, and they came up with 80 books. Well, your scholars, all their higher learning institutions have been shut down. See, the Most High has already gone out of his way to shut down all these different learning institutions, these people, these churches, and being shown that they have no power whatsoever. But we still got Catholic Hebrews that are loving Massa so much that they're still pushing 80 books with no proof whatsoever. So a lot of my brethren who are in this truth and who are reading the other books, please don't waste your time with Catholic Hebrews. Say, whenever they prove 80 books, then we can have a conversation. But until then, they've lost that right. They never had that power in the first place. I said they damn sure don't have that power now. I said they don't have the power to talk about the Book of Mormon when they can't even prove the 80 books themselves. When I see any proof that the Most High has only approved 80 books, then you can talk to me. Until then, we got nothing to say. Nothing to say to each other. Because all you're going to do is ignore the fact that, you know, the Gentiles came over here, jacked all the information, took it back over there, and then remixed it and gave it back to us. You're down with the remix, apparently. And sometimes this is the way it is. The black sheep is sometimes the only one telling the truth. Sometimes the one that seems like the craziest, the one's coming out with the craziest doctrine, the one who's reading all these other books, and not doing what Massa says and not doing exactly the way, the good Negro who follows what Massa says. I said, maybe he's the only one that's telling you the truth. Like I said, I've asked for years, a couple years now. Hey, if all I can do is read 80 books, please show it to me. And they haven't, and they won't, because it's not in there. If you only limited yourself to one book, then that one book should tell you that you can only read this one book. And even the Bible doesn't tell you to only read 80 books. There's plenty of times in the Bible where it references you to other books outside of the Bible. And you can't say things like, well, yeah, we know there's a book of Enoch, but that's not the right one. We can say that about every single book that you read in the Bible. We know that our people, that the other nations have, manipulated all of our books. So I don't read any book and think that it's all totally perfect, because it's not. But that's where the Holy Spirit comes in, and she gives knowledge, she gives discernment. And you got to look at history, and you got to look at who you're listening to. I said, I'm sorry, but the Gentiles haven't told me anything that's been untrue. So for someone to sit here and act like 80 books is totally flawless and there's nothing wrong with the books and this is exactly what the Most High, want to say, come on, man. I said, stop fooling yourself. So I just wanted to go over this with you because, we have a lot of people talking about, Mormons and Israelites and whatever else. I think we don't follow any. I don't have to waste my time talking about. We don't follow anything with the Mormon religion, but we do look for books that actually have, that our brethren, the 10 tribes, have definitely written. And see, the proof it is in the pudding is what we say. We now have been working with the Book of Mormon for 11 months. Mosiah said once the two sticks came together, that the end would come. So within 11 months, and pretty much now it's been about 2 or 3 months that we started praying together for our restoration. So in about 11 months, look at where we came from till today. Look at how we prayed together. Look at what the Most High has done for us already. And what I'm going to start getting into now is some other things about what's about to happen now in the near future. See, we're not worried about, people still talking about a 7-year tribulation period and how Jacob's trouble. We've been in Jacob's trouble. But see, when you are a Catholic Hebrew, you're still following Catholics' breakdown of end times. You still talking about the mark of the beast, which is a Catholic, thought process. You're still talking about the 7 years tribulation. Why? Because they've tried their best to hide what has happened to our people this entire time. And so are you, Catholic Hebrews. You're ignoring all the stuff that they did to our people as soon as the Spanish got here. That should be something. Hey, that was Jacob's trouble. That wasn't Jacob's trouble already? Hundreds of millions of people already being killed. That wasn't Jacob's trouble? Oh, no, you're waiting for a 7-year one because just like what Catholics did, what did they want to do? They wanted to forget about all the stuff that they've done, and you're doing the same thing. They've already put us through Jacob's trouble. The Most High is coming to redeem his people. The trouble is coming now on the other nations. Restoration is coming to his people. But see, we still got people who are still begging and hoping for a 7-year tribulation. They're begging and hoping for the chip, right? They're still begging and hoping for all the things that the Catholic Church has set up for the end days. Well, the Catholic Church, they're not the ones who are here to break down the end days. Everything revolves around the Most High's chosen people. We're fishing and then hunting. So if you're fishing and then you're going through, it doesn't say fishing, then you're going through a 7-year tribulation period, then you become a hunter. It says you fish, been hunters, not fish. 7-year tribulation, 7-year tribulation period. You get your ass beat again. Now you get to be a hunter. It doesn't say that. But see, when you're following Catholic doctrine, because you're a Catholic Hebrew, you're still going to push a lot of the same stuff that they push. You're still pushing that 80 books, even though they're not even pushing it no more. You're still pushing 7-year tribulation period. They're not pushing that. You're still pushing the mark of the beast and a chip. That's not what's going on. Christians talk about that because that's what they're still Catholics. So, like I said, I hope you get a chance here to understand the difference between, as they like to say, a Hebrew Mormon. But see, now we're going to put the ball in their court because now we know that they are actually, Hebrew Catholics who you actually don't follow necessarily. They're following man because man's the one who said 80 books, not the Most High. So when they actually prove that we can only read 80 books, then they can talk about the Book of Mormon. But until then, they can go do the research, and if they're not going to, then they already know exactly what we know what we wanted to tell them earlier. If you're not going to do the research, we got nothing to say. Prove those 80 books. Until then, go sit in the corner. We have nothing else to talk about. All praise is to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother, who is wisdom, who is the Holy Spirit. Acknowledgement to Yahweh Shai. Shalom.